reviewed fully the documents that this horrendous Attorney General put forth, and he found absolutely no fraud, accounting fraud of any kind.
That was Donald Trump during a break at the New York Attorney General civil fraud trial where an expert was testifying. Donald Trump showed up earlier in the day and went on some bizarre panicked rant. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Donald Trump saying, because his expert just testified, the one that he's paying to testify to this, that Donald Trump did not engage in fraud, Donald Trump saying that he should win the case. I want to show you how utterly absurd this expert's testimony is and how utterly Trumpian the testimony is. So first off, who is this expert who testified today? It's somebody by the name of Eli Bartov. Eli Bartov actually once testified for the New York Attorney General's office back in 2019, but did such a bad job, has become essentially a persona non grata when it comes to the expert list for the New York Attorney General's office. And here's why he did such a bad job back in 2019. He was actually testifying in a case involving the same statute being used here by the New York Attorney General in suing Donald Trump. You know how Donald Trump says, this statute has never been used before. It's used very frequently, actually, or it's at least been used before on multiple occasions. I'll just say that by the New York Attorney General. But this specific case where Eli Bartov testified in 2019 was a case against Exxon. And Bartov kept on claiming that the case was against Enron, and he repeatedly referred to Exxon, the defendant, as Enron. So let me tell you about what it is that he's been testifying to here. Here's the testimony that he's been testifying thus far. He's basically said that the triplex valuation was wrong, but that was merely an error by the Trump organization. And the same thing with a lot of these properties that Donald Trump classified as things that they are not. And Bartov says that is an error, an inadvertent error, and basically should be forgiven. That doesn't constitute willful fraud. And then Bartov says, look, these are unaudited financial statements. So unaudited financial statements always contain errors, Bartov essentially was testifying. Lisa Rubin, who was in the court, explains that this is what Bartov said. The number one indicator of fraud for accounting purposes is concealment. But they did not, the Trump organization did not conceal their correction of the error. So Bartov's arguing that because the fraud he claims are errors exist in the financials, that by not concealing the errors, the Trump organization did not commit fraud. Does that make any sense at all? It absolutely doesn't. Lisa Rubin then talks about how Bartov was lecturing from the stand about topics not responsive to the questions, but Engoron was at least listening to this and taking in the information and taking in the evidence. He talks about some literature which says that a valuation is neither the science that some of its proponents make it out to be, nor the objective search for the true value that idealists would likely for it to become, and that it leaves plenty of room for subjective judgments, and it is colored by the biases that we bring to valuations. That's part of the testimony by Trump's expert here. Bartov is asked about what the numbers on Trump's statement of financial conditions from 2011 mean to him, and he says nothing. Lisa Rubin then talks about how he's now testifying about the information that is accompanying the footnotes, and he compared a disclaimer or a warning from the Surgeon General on a box of cigarettes to a disclaimer, essentially comparing the Trump organization to a box of cigarettes, as Lisa Rubin explained. Not exactly the analogy the defense would have wanted here. And then this Bartov goes on to talk about how an assessment when we're talking about valuations, you have to look at the valuation models. You have to look at the assumptions one makes. You have to look at the different definitions of value, he says.
Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health. When you're sleeping well, you can perform at your best mentally and physically. Proper sleep can also increase focus, boost energy, and improve your mood. Introducing Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. If you know me, you know that Dream has been an absolute game changer for my sleep. Sometimes I find myself up at night in bed with my thoughts and uneasiness. Well, that's not the case anymore because I started to drink Beam's Dream Powder. Prior to Beam's Dream Powder, the poor sleep and late nights staying up really affected my mood and energy, but not anymore. And today, our listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their science-backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. Now available in delicious flavors like chocolate peanut butter, cinnamon cocoa, and sea salt caramel, with only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. Other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano-CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. The numbers don't lie. In a clinical study, 93% of participants reported Dream helped them get better sleep. Beam Dream is easy to add to your nighttime routine. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk, froth, and enjoy before bed. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Meidas and use code Meidas at checkout. That's BEAM.com/Meidas and use code Meidas for up to 40% off.
But ultimately, where Bartov's kind of testimony kind of utterly collapses on itself is the kind of central fraud in the case. Donald Trump saying that Mar-a-Lago is a residential property when it was a commercial property, or Trump saying it was a commercial property to pay lower taxes and then saying it was residential property to take out a more favorable loan. Donald Trump saying that the 10,000 square foot triplex is 30,000 square feet. Donald Trump saying that all of the apartments are occupied and using the highest possible valuations for the specific for the square footage of each of the individual units when they are rent controlled apartments and they're not fully committed and they're not fully booked. And so Bartov says, well, those are inadvertent errors, and the fact that the fraud is on the statements themselves and there's no effort to conceal that demonstrates that there is no fraud being committed. I mean, it's a non sequitur, it's completely inconsistent, and it utterly makes no sense, and it doesn't address those central points of where the fraud is being alleged here. As I've said, for example, when Donald Trump goes and whines and brags and says, oh, well, Mar-a-Lago's actually $1.5 billion. First off, it isn't, but if you want to say it's $250 to $300 million as a residential property, fine, sure. Say that it's $250 to $300 million. But the undisputed fact is that you've said it was a commercial property to pay less property taxes and to have club memberships fund the purchase and the note on it. And so you've lowered the valuation yourself to get that benefit. And the fraud is then going out and lying about the status of the property. I'll show you this clip. This was Donald Trump from earlier in the day. Here's the panicky Donald Trump saying that we won everything. We won everything. We won 90% in the Court of Appeals, which they did not. But here, play this clip.
We won this case. Remember this. Just put it in your heads. This case was won at the appellate division, and the judge refuses to do what the appellate division demands he do. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. When you win at the appellate division, that's your high court. The judge has to be bound by what their decision is. Well, we won at the appellate division. Part of that victory was Ivanka, was not having to put herself through this, and they ruled that. But the bigger part of it was that about 90%, because of statute of limitations, about 90% of the case disappears. So remember this. We won the case at the appellate division, the High Court, and this judge refuses to acknowledge that victory or that demand. Now, that's very serious.
And by the way, just compare that, please. I just want to show you this. The same day, same time. Here's what President Biden is doing today, just so you can see it. Play the clip.
Look, I know we have our divisions at home. Let's get past them. This is critical. Petty, partisan, angry politics can't get in the way of our responsibility as a leading nation in the world. The entire world is watching. The entire world is watching. What will the United States do? And think if we don't support Ukraine, what's the rest of the world going to do? What's Japan going to do, which is supporting Ukraine now? What's going to happen in terms of the G7? What's going to happen in terms of our NATO allies? What are they going to do? If we walk away now, it'll only embolden other would-be aggressors. So I'm calling on Congress to do something and do the right thing, to stand with the people of Ukraine, stand against the tyranny of Putin, stand for freedom, literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done.
Well, there you have it, folks. Want to keep you updated on what's been going on at this trial. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. Hit that subscribe button right now.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.